Warm welcome to the 7th Masterclass. The topic for today is mock drill tabletop exercises. Today with us we have Mr. Nishant Jaiswal as a session chair. Welcome, sir. Mr. Nishant is the General Manager, Nanavati Super Speciality Hospital, Mumbai. He is the Maharashtra State Representative of KAHO. So over to you, sir.
Good evening to all the participants. I have a privilege to introduce the faculty for this 7th Master Series, our Dr. Lallu Joseph. She doesn't need any introduction, but indeed it's a ceremony. So Dr. Lallu is Quality Manager, Accreditation Coordinator and Assistant GS at Christian Medical College, Vellore, Tamil Nadu. She is the Secretary General of KAHO, Consortium of Accredited Healthcare Organizations. She is a Principal Assessor, NABH. She is a teacher and a trainer in healthcare quality implementation and hospital administration through NABH, KAHO, and HPI. Today, she will be educating us on tabletop exercises, which are an integral part of conducting the mock drills at all levels. There are various kinds of mock drills. There is a defined and scientific methodology behind mock drills because a disaster happens once in a life for any institution, and then it becomes a history and a very bad memory if we lose patients. And we all know that across the nation, there are n number of examples of fire and internal disaster and mismanaged external disasters which are handled by the. So with this note, over to ma'am. Please help us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Nishan, for that warm round of introduction. Thank you, my dear friends, for joining this session. I'm going to share am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Can you see my slides, Meenakshi?
Yes, ma'am. Perfect.
Yeah. So thank you very much once again for joining this session. Without wasting time, I will go straight to the topic. Mock drills. I will focus predominantly on tabletop exercises. But more than tabletop exercises, I'm going to be focusing also on how to conduct a mock drill. Because what we notice is the awareness about how to conduct a mock drill in particularly healthcare industry is very low. So based on the request from many participants, I thought I will also focus on how to conduct a mock drill. So after the session, I will answer to all your queries. So the learning objectives here: what is a workplace emergency? What are the phases of emergency management? What are the steps to emergency preparedness? Mock drills and the types. How to conduct mock drills? The mock drill calendar. How can one prepare a calendar for mock drill? And mock drill, how do you make that as a safety indicator? So these are the areas that I'm going to be focusing on. Before I begin, my passion with conducting mock drills and safety, particularly in hospitals, came with an experience I had. I had gone for an assessment to one of the hospitals, and as typically how assessors do, I went into a dialysis a facility, and I asked the technologist there, imagine there are 14 patients here, all connected to the dialysis machine. Imagine there is a fire in this place. Now, how are you going to evacuate your patients? Believe me, all the technologists there were standing still. They answered saying, I'm going to call number 1500, which is the emergency code for that hospital. Then I asked them, you have 14 patients connected to the machines here. What are you going to do with these 14 patients? Clueless, absolutely clueless. Few months after that, I realized that there was a fire accident in one of the dialysis facility in a hospital, and there were 14 lives lost. That's when the importance of conducting mock drills and the awareness of staff in evacuating patients glaringly came to my focus. In our hospitals, we talk about mock drills being conducted in car park just for the sake of a piece of paper to show our assessors when they ask, have you conducted mock drill? I said, yes, we do mock drills. And we show that as part of our NC closure, if we have an NC, or to satisfy the assessors who come to our hospital. Often, the real mock drill in a hospital doesn't happen. People are not aware as to what to do in an emergency, how to evacuate patients, what is their role in an emergency, which is what I'm going to be touching upon in this presentation. So it's extremely important that everybody understands their role and how do we go about teaching, how do we go about conducting mock drills and educating our staff so that our hospitals do not become furnaces. I want to insist on that. We don't want our hospitals to become burning furnaces. We need to make sure that our patients are safe. So that is the intent of this presentation. What is a workplace emergency? It is an unforeseen situation that threatens your staff, patients, public. It disrupts or shuts down your operations or causes physical or environmental damage. This says it all. This is an emergency for your workplace. Emergency in a hospital could be as a result of many things. The causes could be multiple things. It could be fire, explosion, some gas leak, structural collapse. It could be natural or man-made disasters. Natural could be storm, earthquake, anything. And what are the risks? It could be risks to health and life of people in the facility, the property, the damage to the property, the damage to the surrounding. What are the consequences of such emergencies in our hospitals? It escalates to a crisis. When the floods happened in Chennai, we all know the situation to the hospitals, how they were flooded and how many patients lost their lives. And it was a crisis situations within hospitals. And the risk to business continuity. It takes almost years to rebuild a brand that is established if there is an emergency and you did not know how to manage an emergency in your hospital. So when it comes to emergency management, there are 4 phases. The phase 1 is the mitigation phase. This is the phase where you are going to prevent emergencies and also take steps to minimize their effects. Often we cannot just prevent, it's not in our control. Things may happen. In such a situation, how do we minimize? How do we control the effect? That is phase 1. You need to identify the risk in your hospital. You have to put in measures to mitigate them. Phase 2 is the preparedness. It is to take actions ahead of time to be ready for an emergency. So our presentation today is going to be on phase 2 predominantly, on the preparedness of staff and your facility to manage any emergency. Phase 3 is the actual response to protect the people and property in the wake of an emergency, disaster or a crisis. So the emergency has happened, there's a disaster, how do you respond to the situation? Phase 4 is the recovery phase, which is how are you going to rebuild? How are you going to return back to normalcy, which is what is phase 4. So the phases of emergency management, phase 1 is mitigation, 2 is preparedness, 3 is response, and 4 is recovery. We have to pray that we don't reach phase 3 and 4. If our phase 2 is well defined and phase 1 is well prepared, you will have a situation where you are going to be well prepared to manage any emergency in your hospital. So our focus should be on phase 1 and phase 2. What are the 5 steps to emergency preparedness? Now I am going to phase 2, which is how are we going to get prepared? What are the 5 steps to emergency preparedness? First and foremost, know the risk. Second thing, build your team. Third, prepare the plan. Not by yourself, not the quality manager, safety manager. It is a team that has to prepare the plans. Test the plan before you make that as a protocol. And then you update everybody. So these are the 5 steps to emergency preparedness. Let me take that one by one. Know the risk, which is what is your risk, your first phase, mitigation phase. The risk in the hospital, we know these are the major risks. Fire risk, it could be bomb threat or some terrorist attacks, failure of utility services, your medical gas, you may run out of that, water supply, there can be a burst in your pipelines, medical emergency, there can be a road traffic accident and you may end up having multiple people coming in, like the way we are handling this pandemic, floods in the locality, earthquake, structural collapse of the building. So these are some of the risks. This is not a complete list. These are some of the risks. So first and foremost, you know the risk. You understand the risk in your area, in your hospital. In my place in Vellore, earthquake may not be a risk. So flood may not be a risk. But I need to be prepared for the other risk. So you will have to be, depending on the place that you are situated, you have to know the risk in front of you. Once you know the risk, then you quantify the risk. There is a risk management program we are running. It's all about this. Risk quantification, identifying the risk, how to do the risk scoring. Now, once you know the risk, it is very straightforward. I'm going to just touch upon a very simple 5x5 matrix as to how to prepare a risk score. Now, imagine your hospital is in Jammu. All right? The likelihood of a bomb threat in Jammu in a scale of 1 to 5, you can say is 5. A bomb threat to a hospital in Jammu. The consequence or the severity, if at all there is a problem in Jammu, is probably 5. There, the risk scoring will be 5 into 5. Risk score is you multiply the likelihood and the severity of impact. In that case, it will be 25. Now, I am considering my place, Vellore. What is the likelihood of a bomb threat in my hospital? Probably once in 10 years, 15 years, I may have a threatening call coming in. So I am saying the likelihood is probably 1. What is the consequence? If at all somebody plants a bomb in my hospital, the severity of impact is 5. Loss of lives, it can be terrible. So the impact I have put as 5. Now the risk scoring here is 5. 1 into 5. So it varies from place to place. So it is up to you to put the likelihood and the severity of the impact and put in the risk scoring. Generally, this is the cutoff. 1 to 5, if your risk score is 1 to 5, it is low risk. 6 to 12, it is medium risk. 15 to 25, high risk in a 5x5 matrix. All right, I hope you understood. Now, when you have an emergency, a risk that you have identified as a high risk, then you have to focus on it more and more. Now, in our hospitals, most of the hospitals, the likelihood of a fire happening is probably 4. The consequence or severity of the impact, again I have put as 4. You can even say 5 and 5. In that case, the risk here is 16. If you put 5 and 5, the risk is 25. So what do? You have to mitigate the risk. You have to have control measures, detections, smoke detectors, alarms, hooters, hydrants, all that in place. Now in my hospital, if my bomb threat, the risk score is 5, why should I have armed security guards everywhere? Why should I frisk every patient? Why should I invest in all the, the metal detectors, which probably one would do in Jammu? That is the difference of a risk score. So your mitigation will depend upon the scoring. I hope you've understood what I'm trying to say. Now, once you know the risk in your hospital, you focus on the high and the medium risk. That should be the main thing. You have to build your team. It is not individuals. Every individual in the hospital may at some point become a first responder. So you have to get the team together. Subject matter experts from different departments should help in overall planning of the the planning for disasters. And the plan should include the 4 phases: the mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. Representatives from safety, security, your human resources, your public relations, facility, operations, top management should be involved from the start, along with your clinical and your nursing teams. So you have to have your team and a concerted effort to prepare the plans for emergency preparedness. The third step is preparing the plan. The common mistake I have seen in most hospitals is that we think that the bigger the document, the better it is. That's a farce. The bigger the document, nobody is going to read it. So you have to make it as precise as possible so that the end users have a look at it at one go. You cannot have huge documents and people don't want to even touch it or read it. So you have to make your protocols as simple, as straightforward as possible and make it as pictorial as possible so that people have the ability to read them and understand them. An emergency plan should be the product of an inclusive team instead of individual. I stress upon this point. It should be concise as to the threat, the risk, and all the mitigation steps. It should have an outline of each emergency, whom to call, the contact number, what should an individual do to ensure their own safety and the safety of others. It should also have the description of the specific tasks of individuals. In an emergency, in OT, let's say there is a fire. What is the role of the surgeon? What is the role of the anesthetist? What is the role of the scrub nurse, the circulating nurse, the nurse in charge of that OR? What is the role of the nurse who's going to take over the case in an alternate OR? All this should be clearly specified, point to point to point, and that is what makes it a good plan. If the plans are already in place, now you may not be starting today, your plans may already be there. In that case, you still form the team and make them as a good review committee. Don't do it in isolation just by yourself. Now, once you design the plan, the most important task is to test the plan. Now, what do people often do? You know what they do? They prepare the plan, the quality safety teams will prepare. They will circulate it to all the departments even without testing it out. Without piloting it, without testing it, don't pass it on. So the fourth most important thing here to note is you have prepared a plan based on what you have thought. Will the plan work? How do you know? So you have to test out the plan. How do you do that? There are two ways of doing it rather than conducting it actually. Lecture and response sessions. You have people. You present to them. This is what the plan is. Have a brainstorming session and you will understand all the gaps in the plan that you have prepared. Again, here I am talking tabletop. Tabletop is nothing but having people around you, multidisciplinary people, the stakeholders of, let's say, an ICU plan. You have the intensivists, you have the ICU nurses, you have the technologists from ICU, you have your quality, safety, your HR, your PR team, everybody together, and understand the roles and responsibilities. Talk to them, tell them, put in a situation, ask them what will you do, how will you respond. Then you will realize whether the plan is going to work or not. The most important element is identifying the weak links or the action items that need to be looked into. There may be multiple weak links, and that is what testing the plans will bring out. And please understand, drills should be performed after validating the results of the lecture and the tabletop exercises. You are doing a mock exercise even before doing a mock drill. So you need to understand whether your plan is going to work. Once you do that, then you update all the stuff. Your plan is ready. Now you've tested it out. Now you go ahead and update all the stuff. While you're updating, overload of information should be avoided. What is the first response? In a fire, I'm going to call this number. That is a first responder response that every staff in the organization should know. The communication, how to communicate, what to do, all staff should know. The codes, we all know the standard codes, the code red for fire, pink for abduction, violet or purple for violent patients, blue for cardiac arrest, black for bomb threat. You may have different codes, but people should know what color in your organization represents which code. Then specific and focused training to different groups. You don't want your entire staff to know how to handle a hydrant. That your fire and security teams will take care. So the training to them should be also very focused on what their roles and responsibilities are going to be. Evacuating sick patients, the nurses, doctors, and technologists are the ones who are going to be involved in this. So they should know how to move the patient, which route to take, what to do in an adversity. So this is the way you need to update all your staff rather than going through the entire protocol with everybody. That is again a common mistake that everybody does. Don't do that at all. It is information overload. Now, with this, I will show you one of the plans that we have prepared for our organization. So that will give you an understanding. Yeah. Is it visible, Meenakshi?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So this is something that we prepared recently. The fire emergency evacuation protocol for COVID wards and ICUs. Now you may notice here the first response, what to do. what one should do. Shout for help, person coming for help, inform which number to call, the central command center, activation, what is the alert to be made in the central command center, attention, code red, level 1, blah, 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 all that, and who should rush in. And what are the levels of fire? This is our own internal categorization as level 1, level 2, level 3 fire. Level 1 is contained fire, small area, just a smoke. Level 2 is partially controlled, one small area to be evacuated, and level 3, the entire evacuation. Now comes the decision-making team, the order for evacuation, who takes the decision, how the information is going to go, and what are the announcements that needs to be made. All these are put down. The role of the doctor in an emergency, the role of the nurse, the role of the staff nurse who's taking care of a semi-critical patient, of a non-critical, how to shift a non-critical patient, and the role of the administrative officers, director, the quality safety teams, communication technical engineer, and the security officer, the chief fire officer. What are their roles? Very specific to COVID protocol, including the PPE and how they should get into the COVID wards. Everything is written down. Now, what is most critical is which are the areas where your critical patients are admitted, semi-critical and non-critical patients are admitted. Now, what are the alternate care sites? In a COVID emergency, you can imagine that the wards are full, and how are you going to create an alternate care site for these patients? AICU will move into CBOR, STICU will move into, this way it is categorized, and also the route to take from AICU, which lift to take, how to move about, turn left, right, and how to reach the particular area is also defined in the protocol. So once you do this, you're not going to train everybody into everything. The AICU staff needs to know where they are going to move their patient, what is the route that they are going to be taking, which is what is important. The alternate care site for every area and the route to take, and how are you going to manage this emergency. Now, if you don't do this, when an emergency comes, you will be stuck there as to how you're going to be managing. So at any time, your quality and safety teams will have to be alert and make sure that your protocols are completely aligned to the organization and the current situation. As and when there are emergencies coming, you have to be alert and keep preparing. So it is very sad when you hear COVID ward, there is a fire and so many patients died. I think in this pandemic, we have already had some 4 or 5 incidents happening across the country, and lives have been lost because there are no clear-cut protocols that are developed and put down. Now let's move on to the next one, which is mock drills and their types. Now, the culture of drills can save lives. One of the most gripping stories of disaster drill planning is the story of Rick Rescorla. Now, this Rescorla, he safely led 2,687 Morgan Stanley employees out of the World Trade Center South Tower on September 11, 2001. He was the chief security officer of this particular Morgan Stanley, the company there. And he was one of the few who saw the vulnerability of the towers. Nobody believed that there was any vulnerability. In 1993, there was a terrorist attack even before 2001 to the Twin Towers, and Rescorla was certain that there will be another one. So he basically prepared the staff very meticulously. Every 3 months he would run the drill and make sure that people were aware as to how to evacuate in an emergency. And that foresight and leadership of Rescorla actually saved 2,687 employees of Morgan Stanley. And this is one of the best examples of how emergency preparedness and drills can really save lives. What is a mock drill? Mock drill is nothing but a practice session to save lives in real-time situation of any kind of danger or calamity that occurs suddenly with no time or very little time to react. Often we are left with no time to react. When that situation occurs, we can't be waiting for others to come and save the situation. So everybody needs to be aware of what happens and in case of an emergency, what to do. So which is what you're going to be practicing and practicing and practicing in a mock drill. So typically, do not do your mock drill in a car park. It's of no use. You need to actually do it with the people. So how are we going to do it is what we are going to see. And why mock drills? Mock drills, why is it important? It is to review the emergency preparedness plan of the organization. You may think everything is in place, but nothing may be in place. So you have to review your emergency preparedness. To evaluate your standard operating procedures, because things may be going on changing with time. So whether it is applicable to the current situation. to check the understanding of the staff on their roles and responsibilities, to enhance coordination among the emergency support and various departments. Otherwise, they'll all be functioning in silos. One will say, this is my role. The other one will say, this is not my role. And then you are stuck. So to check the workability of the systems and installations for mitigating the list. For example, your fire alarms and your detectors, whether they are working, whether your staff are aware how to use the extinguishers. So that is something that you're going to be checking. To understand gaps in the system, to remove deficiencies, and to execute further improvement plan to avoid life and property loss. To enhance the ability to respond faster. That is what is the crux. The ability to respond faster, you're going to be continuously checking that out. And why is it so important? Our patients are vulnerable. They are weak and they require external help. In a hospital, it's so difficult from what it is in a hotel. Hotel, everybody is awake, alert, everybody is ambulant, they just can run around. Whereas here, your patients are sick, they require help, they are often very, very sick. And there may be too many relatives and visitors who do not know the facility at all. And less staffing in our own facilities and different categories of staff. The doctors may be totally different in a way of functioning, the nurses all functioning in different silos and little kingdoms. Presence of equipment, too many equipment all over the place, and that adds vulnerability to the working environment. That is why it is so important to do mock drills in hospitals to make sure that you have a team that works together in an emergency. There are various ways in which we classify mock drills, depending on the stakeholders involved. The in-house mock drill and the out-house mock drill. In-house, it is conducted within the organization without involving outside agency for any sort of response. So it is only your hospital that is involved. Just before this session, I was talking to Nishant and he said how nicely they did the drill with the airport authority. The outhouse mock drill, it involves the external stakeholders like local, district, state jurisdiction in order to assess the response mechanism and to update the SOPs of every organization, not just yours, but their own SOPs as well. So it is a joint effort by various organizations, various authorities coming together and conducting maybe emergency drills for a train accident or a flight accident or maybe a tsunami. Those are outhouse mock drills when you have multiple agencies involved. Based on the level of preparedness, we call two categories. One is the pre-announced drills and the other one is the unannounced drill. Pre-announced, it is conducted after informing the staff. Listen, I'm going to do a mock drill in your area. Why are we doing that? When you are actually going to be testing out new protocols, establishing new protocols, staff are not aware. Performing a drill for the first time in a particular area, why would you want to expose them initially with an unannounced drill? People will become extremely tensed. Performing a drill in a very sensitive and a vulnerable area, for example, in your ICU or your theater, when cases are going on, you don't want to suddenly call a drill, isn't it? So in such situation, you do what is known as a pre-announced drill. You tell them, listen, we are going to call a drill. Please keep your patients informed, your relatives informed, or you be prepared. Now, unannounced drill, it is conducted after all your staff are clear about the protocols and have attained a certain level of proficiency. That certain level of proficiency comes after years of practice with your staff, conducting many, many mock drills. And once you know, yes, there is going to be no problem at all conducting the drills and your staff are completely aware. Now, categories of drills and exercises, we have three categories. One is the tabletop exercise, the functional drill, and full-scale drill. So what are these three categories? First and foremost, the tabletop exercise. This is a facilitated analysis of an emergency situation in a very informal and stress-free environment. This is the simplest way to conducting a drill. This is an excellent exercise. What do? You have people from the stakeholders. You want to do an ICU tabletop exercise? Have the intensivists, have the nurses, have the technologists, have housekeeping people. All of them may be in your conference room or in your auditorium. And simulate a situation. Tell them, this is the situation. How are you going to respond? It is like a viva voce. You put across questions to them and look at their response. So it is not again to find fault. It has to be a two-way communication. So you keep asking questions and they keep answering to it. And that way you're checking your protocol and their awareness of the protocol. How are they going to respond? So it's a very stress-free way to do a drill. Functional drill. You're simulating an emergency in a more realistic manner possible, short of moving real people and equipment to an actual site. So you're not doing it in the actual site. you probably will simulate an ICU in your car park, which is where your car park is coming into picture. Or before you do a maintenance of a particular ward, you kind of simulate that area like an ICU and you do the drill there. You're not getting into the actual spot. You may not even have the actual people there. You may have some other area people there, but do the drill there. That is a functional drill. It is medium complex because people need to come to a particular area and you have to do. Full scale drill. This is the one which is as close as possible to the real event. It takes place on the location. Now OR drill, if it happens in the OR, with the equipment and personnel, with your doctors, surgeons, your nurses, your scrub nurses, theatre technicians, everybody, and you call upon a real event, a simulated event, then it is a full-scale drill. Do we need to do this as well? Definitely yes. It is not just the tabletop exercise. Tabletop exercise is the first level of preparation. Keep on doing as many tabletop exercises as possible. And in your vulnerable areas, try and do functional drill. Full-scale drill, before you open your theatre for maintenance, before you open your ICUs after a maintenance, you can do a full-scale drill in those areas. And it is highly complex because you have to be completely prepared and look at all the safety protocols before you do the drill. All right. So now I will get into tabletop exercises. This is an excellent training tool. This is often a precursor to mock exercise, to an actual exercise. Here you are testing the awareness, seeing whether people are aware and whether they are able to react to the situation that you are throwing up in front of them. It is largely a discussion guided by the facilitator or sometimes two facilitators who share responsibilities. This is like a problem solving or a brainstorming session. Unlike a functional exercise, problems are tackled one at a time and thought through. So it is more a discussion. You keep on asking, how are you going to respond? And the person says, this is how I'm going to respond. You'll say, oh, you did not identify yourself. Okay, I will identify. Then the others are also listening. Yes, that is one step. I need to identify myself when I'm picking up the phone and talking to somebody and informing them that there's a fire, there's a child abduction. And it's an excellent tool for understanding the actual awareness of staff. And it's very easy to conduct. So it is at your ease and convenience you can do the tabletop exercises. Now I've actually done something very innovative here. We conducted a multiple tabletop exercises we are doing now virtually. Instead of a physical, because at this situation we cannot be having everybody with us in our boardroom. So we do, instead of a physical tabletop exercise, we do a virtual tabletop exercise. I will show you some clipping of that. Extremely easy to conduct. Do it through Zoom. Have them all connected in multiple areas and can have as many participants as possible. And you can simulate an excellent situation. You simulate the situation, put it across to them and look at the response of the people, whether it is in line with their response, how it should be. And it could be a great tool to evaluate the understanding and response. Can be hybrid. I've done this as well. A mix of both physical and interview. You keep interviewing, and when you're doing that, you can ask the staff to contact your security, number 3000. And you actually physically see how your security is responding also. And if you're connecting your CCTV cameras and if the drill is happening there, you can physically see what is their response in their location. I will show you a short clip of how we have done this virtual drill. It's an audio, it's a video, so it may be a little, just a minute.
A 35-year-old male diagnosed with AML got admitted.
So this is the scenario that we put across. This was a code the violet, the purple. Am I audible, Nishant?
Yes, you are
Yes,
audible,
ma'am.
but we cannot view the video.
No, that's it.
Yeah. So I'll put up the video now. So this is actually a scenario that we put up for our code violet, which is a mob violence drill. So we put up a scenario like this, a 35-year-old male admitted with AML, and the patients were upset that the bill was more than what they expected, and they were talking in the lobby.
The physician explained the condition to the patient.
All right.
Informs other relatives about the situation over the phone. After the phone call, two relatives rushed to the A block reception to meet their other.
So this is the situation flow. We are telling them that the patient relatives are standing there in the lobby and they are discussing the condition of the patient among themselves, and they are looking a little tensed and they are talking to themselves. and there's a security guard who's actually listening to that. Now, I'll take you through the questions that we put across.
Yes. They are standing happy and they're looking for the first question. Security there. Sundaram sir, Latif, are you there?
Yes, sir, I saw that. Yes.
Yes. So the question is to you, sir.
First, receive the information.
Very much, sir. What is your immediate action? So you are assuming that you are the security guard. You are not the security supervisor now. You are the security guard standing there. You are listening to the patient relatives being aggressive or getting terrorist. How will you react? What will you do?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, first we will inform the, if you get the information that the problem is at A7, we will inform the A7 in charge, nursing in charge. Then side by side, as a security guard, we will like to inform my senior immediately, security supervisor for next level of action.
Understood. Okay. So either you inform the reception, the nursing HOD there, or you are informing the A7. Both ways are good, and you will also inform the security supervisor. Correct. Good. So now let us move on to the nursing. So Sister Joyce, the security person at the security gate is informing you that there is problem. One A7 ward patient relatives are standing there and they are discussing, and he is telling you that this is the patient. This is the problem that they are discussing. So what will you do now? What is the role of the charge nurse or the senior nurse? What will you do?
I will just go listen to the patients first, the relatives first.
Now the relatives are all down at the lobby,
Okay.
and you are hearing from the security that there is a problem, potential problem. So what will you do now? You know the bed number. Let's say bed number 706.
So now I will just inform the duty doctor in the ward. Immediately I will inform the doctor in the ward.
Okay, so will you inform the duty doctor or will you inform the senior doctor in hematology?
First inform the duty doctor in the ward, and then simultaneously I will call the consultant or the senior doctor in the office.
All right.
I think that's important. Would you document any of this anywhere?
Yes, I need to document. Yes, sir, I need to document. First, I will inform, listen to the patient, listen to the phone call conversation, whatever, and then inform the duty doctors in the ward, and then second time simultaneously inform the senior doctors in the office or the HOD, and then I will document the nurse's notes.
Okay.
Great. Thanks, Sister Joyce. So that is over. Now to Anu, your junior doctor on the floor is informing probably your third call, saying that there is a problem. So what do you think?
All right. So that is something that I had just put up as a. You think were you able to see that or hear that?
It was audible, not visible, ma'am.
Not visible. All right. Okay. So I think the thing is, you're actually in that video, you had multiple people seated in their own areas, and we were actually sitting in the boardroom and asking questions. We put up a scenario and we were asking questions to them based on the scenario, what and how they would be, responding to the situation. So we found this exercise extremely good. Now we have started doing for all our, codes, because often we find that this particular exercise can be done from anywhere. Now this is a good enablement. Technology is really helping us do this, where you can have multiple people at one go covered with this exercise. So don't worry at all. It's not that difficult. It's not rocket science. So you can go ahead and do this as well. Can you see my slide now?
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
So I'll move on with this. Now, how to conduct a mock drill? Now, doing mock drill is also very important. The steps that you follow before you do a mock drill, whether it is a tabletop exercise or a functional one or a real situation that you're going to be mimicking. You need to be well prepared for anything. You need to have a proper way of conducting the drill. First and foremost, what are the prerequisites for an effective drill? Regardless of the size, complexity, and the risk involved, an effective drill should include the following: adequately trained team, not just anybody. You need to have your team prepared, well prepared to conduct the drill. Well defined process for conducting the drill. Who will do it? How you will do it? Which is the team that is involved? Definite criteria for evaluation, not just ad hoc criteria. It has to be written down checklist for evaluation, and qualified evaluators who know the system, who know the protocol, and they are available to evaluate the response of the participants of the drill. So these are very important. We don't take this seriously. Once you take them seriously, your staff will also take you and the exercise seriously. Now, before you start the drill, you have to have a coordinating conference, which means you have to have a meeting with the stakeholders who are going to be conducting the exercise. So you sit down. What are the objectives of the mock drill that you're going to be conducting? What is the scope of the exercise? Which department? What type of emergency? What is the situation you are going to put across? Who is going to be the team leader? Deciding the date and venue, whether it is a tabletop exercise or are you going to do a mock exercise. All that has to be decided by this team, which we call as a coordinating team, and the meeting we call it as a coordinating conference. The purpose is to identify involvement of the participants, the players in the drill, the department, the number of people who are going to be involved. Often we see that hospitals involve the media also in the exercise. So if you are going to do that, are you going to invite the media? Necessary approvals for that. The various steps to conduct the mock drill. First thing, if it's an announced drill, pre-drill briefing, positioning of independent observers, initiation, activity, termination, critiquing, evaluation, and final reporting. So these are the steps. I'll go one by one. First and foremost, the pre-drill briefing. It involves briefing by the coordinator to the drill team and the observers. The entire participants are going to be there. You're going to be briefing the team as to what the scenario is, how we are going to conduct, and what are the safety precautions one needs to take. You have to take the drill seriously because you can have problems while conducting the drill with safety issues. Announced drill. Pre-drill briefing with the participants to explain the scene and the ground rules for executing. Review of operational procedures and safety precautions with the participants. Briefing of the drill procedures, what you are going to be doing. The second step is positioning of independent observers. Your independent observers should be trained and they should be conversant with the protocol. The independent observers should be deployed at key locations of the mock drill. Which are the areas? Your security is involved, your nursing managers are involved, your nursing team at the higher level, your administrators, your actual responders, every area you should be having the observers. Observers should be provided with checklist evaluation format of the response expected, which is drawn from the protocol. This is again a big exercise where you have to sit down and prepare the checklist for the observers. Response mechanism during the drill should be closely observed. Conformances and gaps identified should be documented. So this will be the role of the independent observers. Now these are some of the observers, the checklist that we have prepared. We keep preparing checklists based on the drills that we are doing. Now I will show you, look at this drill. In December 2019, if you look at the midpoint surgery, we did a midpoint surgery. We had a patient who was just getting operated, was just getting into the OR in the recovery. Here you will notice that the independent observer had points like floor nurse informed on the order, sterile towels, covers obtained by scrub nurse. Did the surgeon cover the surgical site and instruments with sterile towel? Did the anesthetist shut off the oxygen valve? And anesthetist collecting necessary medication? Did they place the IV fluids on the bed for transport? The step by step, you have to go at a micro level to evaluate. You should not just see, okay, the fire team came in at this time. This is what often people do. Call the drill at this time. The fire team came at this time. Everybody was there. They all evacuated. They moved out and done. That's not what a drill is. Individuals, their responsibilities, you have to define point by point at a micro level and evaluate. Look at all this. Pre-operative surgery, anesthetized patients, what is the role of the medical gas personnel, your electrical, your AC section, all this will be separate checklists depending, and your independent observers will actually be observing this. Your independent observers can also be sitting and observing through the CCTV camera. That's another way of doing it. Now comes the drill initiation. The drill should be initiated by your team coordinator according to how you have decided who the coordinator is going to be. That person narrates the situation, and that situation has to be realistic, leading to the events and capture the attention of the participants. How the information is going to be relayed, how the drill is going to happen, how people are going to move, what are the sequence of events, all that should cover in your scenario. So your scenario has to be defined beautifully well so that you can capture the entire response from top to bottom. Now the actual drill activity. After the initiation, every activity and response should be carried out according to the scenario. That is the ideal expectation. During the drill, independent observers should document the activities based on the criteria that you have given to them. Each drill should have specified areas of evaluation. I mentioned that earlier to you. So the activity really starts. Now, each observation should be noted down with time, whether the people actually carried out the activity and whether it was appropriately carried out. Clearly noted down, and also the deficiencies clearly pointed out. Now look at this. Not all carts have wheels attached. Need to attach wheels for carts. Some of them actually did not have the wheels. Now these are observations that you're going to be noting down very clearly, and that is actually going to help you prepare your system for managing disasters. Finally, you're going to be terminating the drill. The drill scenario should be allowed to continue till completion of the stated objectives, where the entire sequence, not just half-baked one, and should be terminated by the lead or the coordinator in accordance with the plan. So you have had your coordinating conference, you have decided how to do it, people have moved to the alternate care site, you are getting the response that they've all moved, then you are deciding to terminate the drill. Then comes the most important step, which is critiquing the drill. When I say critiquing the drill, this is a performance process improvement exercise. The lead coordinator should hold a session with all those participants in a particular place immediately after the drill, not wait for 2-3 days. It should be a two-way communication. So the coordinator's role is very important. They have to allow people to talk. They should not be saying, no, this is the protocol, this is what you are expected to do, you never did this, you never did that. So it becomes a fault-finding exercise. You have to allow people to talk. There may be situations that they have encountered which is actually a problem with your SOP, which is what you will need to identify if there are problems with your standard operating procedure. So you have to allow people to talk. The process should first involve self-evaluation by the participants, then a discussion on the evaluation notes, checklists, actions taken, and overall drill performance. The critical analysis should highlight the success, the shortcomings, personal action, equipment accessibility, all that you have to review. It may take time, but that enthusiasm people open out. They need to talk. The critic should include an analysis of the expected versus the actual. That is when you come to the end. This was the expected, the actual operations. Don't start that. You are critiquing. Actually, it is not critiquing. I would say it's a actual brainstorming. The incident commander should determine whether the drill objective was met or not. So finally, that person is the judge to say whether we really met the objective or not. Once that is done, it is very important to document everything. From the time you started the drill, what exactly happened, how did you go about, with pictures, what are the gaps you identified, what were the observations, what are the changes in SOPs that are needed. All this should be put down in writing. We are extremely poor in putting down in writing, but this is very, very important for us to look back and see the changes that we have made to our protocol. So these are some of the examples of the expected versus the actual. Now this is a template that you can use for preparing the report for the mock drill. We do not prepare. Often hospitals don't prepare a report for the mock drill. You need to do that. You need to get into that habit so that you exactly document what happened in the drill. That is a good learning exercise for you to identify the gaps when you put that in writing. Once that is done, that's when the work starts. Review the performance. Then the coordinating conference has to decide, assigning the responsibility to close all the gaps, ensuring timeliness, timelines for closures within a week, within 10 days, within 15 days, this should be closed. This SOP needs to be changing, and all this to be presented to your safety steering committee. Once in 2 months, 3 months, whatever frequency you're holding your safety steering committee, or once a month, you need to present this. My dear friends, please understand, the most important thing in all this is preparing your mock drill calendar. NABH may tell you conduct a drill once in 6 months. Don't take that as once in 6 months for the entire hospital. I read it like this. Every area, at least twice the year, you should be doing the drill. which means that area should have had a drill at least once in 6 months, because this is one of the most important exercises to save your patients and your property and your own staff. So this is a template that I have put together for our hospital. Code red, violet, orange, pink. Which are the areas that we cover, which month, the ICUs, ward. Every week we do mock drill for the wards. We have 89 wards. So we have divided the whole year in a way that we cover 2 or 3 wards in a week. And OPD areas, huge OPD. So the entire OPD, twice a year we evacuate the OPD. And this is a good calendar to be in front of you. Beginning of the year, January, you prepare this calendar. Get this approved, keep it with you, follow it religiously and meticulously. If you do this, then your system will become perfect. Now this is for the wards that we have prepared, each, even with the date. And this is only for us. We are not going to be telling them this is the date we are going to be coming. But this is a guiding factor for the quality and safety teams to actually be conducting in a very organized manner the drills that we want to conduct in our organization. How do you utilize this as a safety indicator? Now, you should not feel ashamed that your code red or code blue or code pink did not meet the expectations. You should be happy that it did not meet, because that is opportunity for improvement. Now you have 54 steps, 60 steps to follow. Out of that, 20 or 22 was not followed. Put it down properly in writing. If a mock drill number of violations are 0, then the mock drill is not a drill at all. Nowhere can you have a perfect mock drill. So you need to identify the steps followed, violations for every drill. That you can only do if you have a checklist properly written down. Count it, number of steps, how many violations were there, and note down the percentage violations. Please understand one thing. Your number of steps may not be same all the time. Your steps will be varying because your protocols may have mild variations then and there, depending on the drills that you conduct and the variations that you notice and the changes in protocol that you bring about. These are some of the references, and mostly it is actually my own thought process that I have put together, because over the period of time, managing such a huge hospital, the quality and safety, we have learned a lot in this exercise. And I really wish to thank my dear friends, our safety officer, Mr. Ruben, our quality officer, Mr. Rabindranath, and our fire and safety convener, Mrs. Sarala Stanley, our fire officer, Mr. Natarajan, and our security officer, Mr. Sundaram. All of them have contributed so much, and we just sit down every week almost, going on conducting drills throughout the hospital on a very timely manner. It's very difficult otherwise managing huge hospitals without doing proper drills. And our clinical teams, our nursing teams are fully involved in the way we conduct the drills. Initially, it was just us running around, but today everybody is involved because they see this exercise as a very fruitful exercise. And I want to end by saying, it wasn't raining when Noah built the ark. That is the crux of this entire exercise. You need to imagine that there will be rains coming and you have to build the ark, imagining that you should be prepared to manage any emergency. So thank you very much, my dear friends, and I am ready to answer to your questions. Over to you, Nishan.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We have many questions and queries from the participants, but to summarize, I would say that it's a very tough task to discuss in detail more than 10 emergency codes in various setups. I have also learned few things which I would like to inculcate in my drills. And one thing I suggest or give an input to all the participants, if you want to conduct a drill, if you need certain drafts or something, you can send an email individually to Meenakshi and the other people. Whatever, in whichever capacity we can, we will send you the templates and facilitate you in executing the drills properly. Because if we were, the background is that if we able to equip one hospital and avert some situations, we have done justice to this subject and to our profession. So that's the commitment and the contribution from which background we operate, and Madam has conducted the lecture. Madam, there are a few questions I will read out and request you to answer those questions. So number one is from Ms. Shweta Raj. She is asking frequency for conducting the mock drills. So you have mentioned in your presentation, but I would like to reconfirm her again. Please.
Yeah. So I personally feel, if you go by the accrediting agency, they will say once in 6 months. All right. But don't go by that. You go, that's a minimum standard expected. Here, the safety is a priority for you. So every area, I will say at least do one drill once in 6 months. When I say every area, every ward, every ICU, every theatre, if you have 3 OT complexes, do one mock drill once in 6 months in every OT. Your dialysis facility, your radiotherapy facility, your OPD. So the best practice I would strongly recommend is doing once in 6 months in every area. That is why your tabletop is going to help you, because you can then do as many as possible. It's not going to be time consuming. I hope I've answered your question, Shweta.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. The second question is from Ms. Nayana Das. She is asking, can mock drills such like code blue should be done as pre-announced drill?
Yeah, there again, see, doing a code, she's asking about code blue, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Code blue need not be announced at all, because code blue everybody is expected, the clinical teams are expected to know. But here, if you go into the ward and suddenly put a mannequin there and start the drill without informing the other patients, you're going to have panic created in that area. So it is very important that you create the ambience for the drill as well. You may get into the treatment room in that particular ward where you don't have the other patients and their relatives standing there. Don't create a kind of a paranoia in the system. Do the unannounced drill. The staff there need not know at all that you are actually going to be starting. But select an area in such a way that you're not creating confusion in that area. So code blue can definitely be unannounced, and I personally feel it should be also, because the awareness of staff should be there to handle any cardiac emergency. Yeah.
Got it, ma'am. Thank you so much. Another question is from ACBC. She is asking, can you help in understanding best way to conduct disaster management drill? Which case, how many can a hospital accept having 4-bed casualty, 10 OPD configuration?
So you're talking about an external disaster, I presume. So
Yes, ma'am.
yeah. So external disaster drill, at least do once a year. You may not be a big hospital, you may be a small facility, but you still need to get your system prepared to accept more than what you can handle. That's the idea. You definitely cannot handle 40 patients if you have only some 10 beds or 15 beds and you have a 4-bedded emergency. But to the level to which you can manage, you need to be prepared. And beyond that, patients may just come in. Imagine there's a road traffic accident and you have some 25 patients coming into a 20-bedded facility. You need to have systems established to move them to the nearest hospital. So you need to know the hospitals in the locality, calling them, getting the ambulances from that area to get them to be moved to that area. To that level of preparedness, at least you should have. So that drill, at least once a year, you should have a mass casualty external disaster drill conducted in your organization, even if you are a small setup. Definitely, yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Suresh V is asking, how effective will be the TTE than doing mock drill in the critical area?
Yeah. I personally feel doing TTE is one of the best ways to assess the awareness of the people in the organization. So it should become like a prelude to your actual exercise. So you do as many TTE tabletop exercises as possible, and then you plan a good one, a functional exercise, and do it there. Then you will know the difference. So don't just go bang into the area and do an exercise. That's going to lead you nowhere. You may have a paper document beautifully prepared for your NABH assessors or your JCI assessors, but it will serve nothing. So it is good that you do as many tabletop exercises as possible, make the system aware, make your staff aware, and then you do an actual functional exercise. That's what I would recommend.
Got it, ma'am. There are many questions. We will text and we will get back to you with the other queries and the questions.
Yeah. Thank you, Nishant, and thank you, my dear friends, for joining. I'm very happy to answer to all your queries, and if you want any checklist, if you want presentation, and if you want some of our protocols, all that, I'm extremely happy to share with all of you, and I'll request Meenakshi to share some of the, even the checklist and other things. I've actually put it in my presentation. I will ask her to share it with all of you. Thank you very much for joining. You can also write to us or put up in the group if you have any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks, Nishant.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for the wonderful presentation. Dear friends, the next masterclass is on clinical audit. If you have not yet registered for this, please register it now. We have a very important and a very nice course going on, which is on risk management. It is self-paced learning, totally, it is available at your dashboard. So if you want, please register for this. Another interesting course, which is again a self-paced learning, is on RT-PCR. So if you haven't yet registered for this, please do that. Our basic CPQIH, which is usually a 3-day program, now we are having it online and it is a 2-day program. It is on the 5th and 6th of December from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Please register for this. This will talk entirely about the entry-level standards. The registrations are available. A new program that CAHO has launched along with Quimpro. This is certification for problem solving, which is commencing from the 26th November onwards. This is again an online program and it's an extremely well taken all across. Please register for this program as well.
I want to add on here, Meenakshi, this program is not completely self-paced learning. It is going to be about 8 sessions with Mr. Suresh Lulla and some of the faculty on application of quality tools, about 7 quality tools. And we have a lot of experts who are going to be talking about each of these tools. And the other half is going to be self-paced learning, actually solving problems using the quality tools, the application of the tools. So this is going to be a very good program for you if you are interested in applying quality tools for problem solving.
Thank you all for your wonderful participation. Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, Mr. Nishan.